Now, one of the first things that you need to know or keep in mind when it comes to interviewing people online is sometimes it can really just be done through a chat. Hey there, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now, my goal is that at the end of this video is able to walk you through the process of how to interview remotely, whether you're hiring your virtual assistant or you are hiring for a freelancer. Now, if this is your first time on my channel, my name is Lacaba. I have been working from home since I was 15 years old and now run my own assistant agency here in the Philippines, and now post videos every Sunday on how to work from home and every Thursday on how to have an online business. So make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of my videos. Now, in the last video, I talked about basically the basics of how to hire a virtual assistant if you've never done it before. And one of the more daunting parts of that is actually part where your applicant is also really nervous about, which is just the interview. Now, the interview process, like I said, can be a little bit scary, both sides, for the applicant and also the employer, mostly because you're not sure what to look out for. And that's what this video is going to really focus on. So make sure to watch until the end of this video so you can see the whole process that I go through with all of the applicants that we have inside of our company. And it's a process that I've used in the last 7 years when it comes to hiring online. And they do stack up. So again, make sure to watch until the end of the video for that. Now, one of the first things that you need to know or keep in mind when it comes to interviewing people online is sometimes it can really just be done through a chat, especially if you're going to be hiring for Filipinos who you don't need them to be on camera. You don't need to hear their voice right away. Their skills or the tasks they'll be doing is mostly going to be them, writing, creating content. It doesn't really involve having a really good English speaking skill. I actually do recommend doing a chat. Now, for us inside of 2XU, inside of my company, we do video mostly because, of course, we share that recording over to our clients, and we're also needing that person to be a good communicator back and forth because they'll be working closely with a client who will need to have like weekly reports. So again, it really depends on what you need, but that's one of the first things that you want to decide is, do you want to do a chat interview or do you want a video interview on Zoom? Now, usually a interview is usually done about 30 to 60 minutes. It doesn't have to be that long, and the purpose of the interview is at this point, hopefully you've been able to have them be filtered out with their job post. You put in like some sort of Easter egg that will like, hey, make sure you have this inside of your email so I know that you read the job ad. It could be you've already given them a test, a skills test, so you can see maybe where their graphic skills are at or their writing skills are at. So hopefully at this point, before you actually start the interview, you already have filtered them in that way, and now the interview portion is actually just getting to know them, trying to see if you guys can work together moving forward. And now that you have that, now that you have your applicant probably in a Zoom call or a chat, what are the questions that you can ask them? The first essential one is going to be asking them about what their office situation is like. So what I mean by this is asking them what kind of laptop that they use, if that's going to be compatible with the type of work that they're going to be doing. So for example, if it's going to be a programmer or like a hardcore video editor, they need better specs on a laptop. However, if they're just going to be a general virtual assistant, or they're mostly going to be writing content, not creating graphics, then a lower spec laptop is already good enough. The other thing that you want to ask them is their internet situation. Now, if you're hiring from different countries, especially from third world countries like the Philippines, our internet isn't always the best. So you want to ask them what is their internet speed. You can ask them to go through speedtest.net to be able to find out what their speed is. You also want to ask them about their office space. You want to ask them about where they are at when it comes to actually getting work done. Like, do they have a place in their house basically that they can just close the door and get work done? Or is it more of an open space? So for example, for me, I just have my own bedroom. My bed is actually just right there. So I have like a place where I can really just get work done. You want to ask your applicant that question as well, because you want to have a good framework of where are they at when they're actually getting the work done for you. Is there a place where it's too noisy, so you might not be able to do calls with them? So again, asking them about their home office situation. Next is also just asking them where they're generally located. Are they generally in the city, or are they generally more in the rural provinces? So you want to know this, because then if their internet does go out or if their electricity goes out, they can go to a nearby coffee shop maybe, or a co-working space, just so So again, you have backups to be ready if anything does happen between working with you. The next question that you want to ask is, of course, the usual question of tell me about yourself. Now, tell me about yourself. The usual way that I ask this to our applicants is tell me about yourself of some things that I won't be able to find on your resume. I have your resume in front of me right now. I don't really need just another summary of it. So when I do this, I'm challenging them to think outside of just their work scope and telling me more like their background of why they took, this course in college, the background of why they started this particular career, maybe the things that they like to do outside of work. They'll also end up talking about their own goals. And with this, you can start aligning, does working with me actually align with what their goals are? So when you ask this question of just the simple tell me about yourself, you are watching out for, again, if this person is going to be someone that can be working with you for a long period of time. Again, depending on if you're hiring a virtual assistant or a freelancer, you want to know if you guys are essentially compatible, if your communication style is basically a match. Next question that you want to ask them is, what do you like to do for fun? Now, the reason why this is a good question to ask is, as people are working from home, it's a little bit harder to really separate work life and home life. So asking them what they like to unwind, basically to relax, is going to be helpful for you as an employer, because you know what they spend their majority of their time with outside of work. So if they're the kind of person who likes to read, that actually tells me that there's someone who can be teachable. If there's someone who likes to just mostly not really have hobbies outside of just work, then that tells me that they kind of maybe need a little bit of opening up. So then I can see what I'm working with or who I'm working with. The other reason why you want to ask this question is you also want to learn how to reward them, like what feels good for them. Like if they did something like an awesome milestone when it comes to working with you, you are able to reward them in the way that makes sense or that they can accept. The other side of it is also you might have shared interests. And again, that's another point of reference for you to know, okay, this is the kind of person that I can really, really work with. The next question that you want to ask is, how confident are you with your skill? Now, like I said, at this point, hopefully you've done like a skills test with them. But when you ask this question, you are going to see what they see are weaknesses or strengths that they see with the skill that they have. So it could be that, for example, let's say you're hiring for a virtual assistant. You can say, oh, I'm really amazing, or I'm really confident when it comes to email and calendar management, and not so much when it comes to content management. That's still something that I'm working on. So when you hear that response, you are already gathering data essentially of what are different things that they're still not the best at, and one of the things that you can rely on them right off the bat. The next question that would be really essential for you to ask is, how do you learn new skills? Now, when you ask this question, you are essentially asking them what is their thought process when it comes to learning something new. So some people might respond, I usually wait for just the training material, or one of my favorite responses is always when they say that Google is their best friend and they can look up anything and that's how they learn. That shows me that they're the kind of person who's resilient, who finds different ways to get the information that they need. And it also gives you, again, a preference of how you would give training materials to them. So if they say that, hey, I usually learn through audiobooks, then you know in your head that they are more of a audio learner. If they say that I usually YouTube, find videos for it, they're a visual learner. So when you ask this question, again, you get a preference of if this relationship is going to work or not. If you're a person who has like a ton of books that you want to give to a person and they don't like reading, then it's not going to make sense unless you're good with just giving them audiobooks to be able to learn different skills. Now, speaking of skills, another question that you want to ask them is, what are their preferred tools? Now, preferred tools can go into 3 different categories. One is, what is their preferred tool when it comes to doing or working on the skills? So for example, if they're a graphic artist, it could be that they're working on Canva, Photoshop, on all of the different tools. This is just to give you a good reference of what it is that they're working with. 2 is asking them what are the preferred ways that you can maybe track their time, that you can maybe track their hours. You guys can check out my video on like top tools that you need when it comes to working with a remote team, and you will have a better idea of all the different tools that you need to set up before even getting started. But you want to ask your applicant this question so you guys can sync. You want to ask them about the task management tool that they've been using, for example, or basically what is a payment tool? What is the fastest way that I can pay you right away? It could be PayPal, it could be TransferWise, it could be other things. Like I said, you're syncing, you're making sense of, can I work with this person or not? If they say that, hey, I can only get money through Western Union and that's going to be troublesome for you, that might just be a red flag of like, hey, I can't move forward because this is the only way that I can pay you. The next question that you want to ask them, like I mentioned, you do want to know generally where their location is at. The next question you want to ask them is a little bit of a how they'll handle a crisis situation, which is you have a deadline, your computer crashed, what do you do? This is you kind of getting to know their problem solving skills to see how they would respond to a certain situation. So for example, their computer breaking, they have a deadline, barely have any way to communicate with you. What would be the next steps for them? So how they answer this is going to show you what is, again, their usual process of making sure that they actually get things done, whether they're just gonna give up or they're gonna keep finding ways to be able to submit the project or the task. Now, the last question that I really recommend that you ask your possible applicant is, what does your usual day look like to you? Now, the reason why this question is so essential is if they're working from home, especially if they're working from home, you wanna know what their routine is like do they get up at 6 a.m. because you need them to be up at 6 a.m.? Do they have a routine set? Do they have a way that they know predictably what their day is going to look like? Because then that's going to increase the chances of you being able to work with them depending on where they are at. This is also a way for you to see how they see themselves, how they see their day should be going, whether that's going to be a productive day or a day where they're just really smart and they can figure things out really fast and then take the rest of the day off. So you want to get to know, again, their just workflow, their work routine, so then you can get in sync with that as well. Now, there's a lot more interview questions that you can definitely ask your applicant, but those are the top ones that I really recommend, so then you can get to know them a little bit better. Now, a few more tips for you for what to look out for when it comes to actually doing these interviews. One is if they're on time. I know that's such a small thing, but if you're doing the call or chat online, there shouldn't be a lot of reasons for them to be late unless it wasn't like an actual their internet crashing. So that's one main thing, because you'll see how they prioritize different things, and usually how they show up to an interview is that how they'll show up to the actual job. So just keep that in mind. Two is, how did they answer? Was it straight to the point? Did they use examples? Did they seem honest or genuine? Like how they were able to give you feedback, like tell me about yourself or tell me what your day usually looks like. Was there an actual flow in the conversation, or did you have to keep picking up the conversation between the two of you? Now, yes, as the person who's doing the interview, you do have to really guide the interview process, but if they've had questions for you, for example, of things that they were curious about, that's usually a really good sign that they are a good applicant if they have questions for you as well, because they're engaging with you. It's not just a one-sided thing. They're engaging with you in the process. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and if you guys did, make sure to hit the thumbs up button right there. Comment below what other questions you might have when it comes to interviewing people online, or what questions do you like asking during interviews? Now, if you still haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of my videos every Sunday on how to work from home and every Thursday on how to have online business, which you guys can check out the playlist right here and also the latest video right here. I hope you guys have an awesome day. Remember that small steps matters, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!